I was scared of dentists in the dark. I was scared of pretty girls and starting conversations. I love my friends and turning green. You're the magician's assistant in their dreams. When they come unstuck, lady running down to the riptide, taking away to the dark side. I wanna be your left arm. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat because you're gonna sing the words wrong. There's this movie that I think you'll like. This guy decides to quit his job and heads for New York City. This cowboy is running from himself, and she's been living on the higher shelf. When they come unstuck, lady running down to the riptide, taking away to the dark side. I wanna be your left arm. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat because you're gonna sing the words wrong. Oh, I just gotta know if you're gonna stay. You just gotta know. 'Cause I can have it any other way. Well, I swear she's destined for the screen, the closest thing to Michelle Pfeiffer that you've ever seen. And they come unstuck, lady running down to the riptide, taking away to the dark side. I wanna be your left arm. I love you when you're singing that song, and I get a lump in my throat 'cause you're gonna sing the words wrong. Weep for yourself, my man, you'll never be what is in your heart. Weep, little lion man, you're not as brave as you were at the start. Rate yourself and rake yourself and take all the courage you have left. Waste it all on fixing all the problems that you made in your own head. But it was not your fault but mine, and it was your heart on the line. I really fucked it up this time, didn't I, my dear? Didn't I, my dear? Tremble for yourself, man, you know that you've seen all of this before.
Hello,
Tremble, little lion man, you'll never.
Just turned Cog down. The holidays are over, so I had to go back. I had to find other music, and I've just been lazy, so I haven't found new opening music. What are you gonna do? It's only like for 2 minutes at the start of the show anyway. Hi, everyone. It's Christy. How are you doing? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is, whenever it is you are, and you are watching this. It is officially my last day of holiday, and that means, I'm savoring today. I was off all last week, and I took holiday over the course of, during the New Year's week. I was hosting, you guys might know, I was hosting Cog because he wanted to do some research in the area, and so that was a lot of fun, but I am completely out of like I'm ready to be retired at this point. Like I think everyone probably is ready to be retired if they had the financial means for it. But yeah, I've got very good at just filling my days with stuff. So anyway, what we're gonna do in the show is, I think we're only gonna go about an hour. Let me put my pop filter. I put my pop filter right over my mic, so it works. The show today will probably only be an hour, and that's mostly because I'm kind of tired. Like, you guys can maybe read the physical signs of how my energy levels are. So, like, when Christy's got her Tolkien, or not Tolkien, that was an author, Token, that white guy rapper, baseball cap on backwards with her fringe bangs, people in America call them, dangling out. That means Christy can't be arsed to like do her hair for the show. So that tells you a little bit about where my energy levels are. So probably 1 hour show today, but I'll try to keep it light and keep it fun, keep it informative, somewhat educational. So just a quick, I see, I'm just going to call you Bal in the chat. Oh, you guys can't see yourselves. So yeah, I moved my star a little bit because I thought a light went out, but actually it was just that I had flipped the switch. So I repositioned it. So you can see my paper lantern star up there. Ooh, I thought that was a bit more centered. So yeah, kind of also having a hard time figuring out how to light today. Today the lighting is hard. But let's Vanilla Ice Baby. Hey John. Morning to Cassiopeia, Mithril as well. So some usual faces in the chat. Good to see you guys. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it's because it's been a while since I've done a video. So I'm going to do some fluff first. By the way, I should probably do some like real news first, but I want to do a little bit of fluff. And that fluff is going to involve talking about Sargon's impeachment video, because I put that out yesterday. And I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes. Not that there's that much behind the scenes you do in a response video, but in case you guys had some questions related to that video, I'm happy to answer that. Let me go ahead and switch. Yeah, this is the one I'm looking for. Huzzah! That is the page we're looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. This is the window you're looking for. Another reason for me to do a shorter show today is because clearly my attention span is just unfocused. That's the motto of the day. Unfocused. Hey Angus, hello to yous as well. I'm just rearranging the chat here window so it's not covered up by my face, which is what it is at the moment. Yeah, and then they got Kitty and the fire. That's all fine. That's all good. All right, so yeah, big deal. Well, not really, because it's only got 605 views. But I did an edited video for the first time in for freaking ever. It's been a while, a long while, since I've done an edited video, and now I remember why. So I don't know, do you guys have any interest? Hey, you're here, you're watching, you're stuck. It's a Sunday morning. Again, it's like casual, so we're just gonna have a casual morning together. All right, so what happens when you do a response video, in case you guys didn't know? Well, at least how I do mine. The first thing, of course, is you end up having to watch through the video you're going to respond to and make notes. So I've moved most of my video production actually over to my mobile phone. This entire video that, I guess I'll hit play, but mute it. That entire video was made on my Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, except for the audio. Initially, I did even record the audio on my phone, but I had no way to properly do noise reduction to clean it up, and to also compress the file loudness so that it's not too loud and not too soft. But yeah, otherwise, the entire video that you're looking at right now, I did everything on here. I just sat about, 3 hours, and 8 hours yesterday. 8 hours editing on my phone. So, let's see. Just pause. Oh, okay. So someone apparently had a Twitter fight with somebody. I don't. Okay, that's a possibility. I don't really remember. I have a pretty short Twitter memory, if I'm honest. So let's see. Christy and chat. We said hello to Angus already. Sargoon has a hinterland. Ugh. What else? I don't understand the connection between Vanilla Ice and dumb anime. But Ice Baby. I don't anime. Whew, right over my head. I don't think I got a notice for the video. Oh yeah, well it only just came out in the last 24 hours. I should also share it like in my messages, but I'll do that later. I'm not gonna watch you guys make you guys watch me do admin. Further to a previous Twitter mini argument. Oh, it was only a mini argument. Okay, John. I just wanted to say that I was right, that you were right about what would happen to Labour at the general election. Okay. I mean, it's not that I have special insights. I could just read polls mostly. That's it, and you go with an educated guess rather than an uneducated one. So, and maintain a strong platform with a less toxic leader. I do think that, in terms of how to lead from the left, there's all right. I'm gonna go off on a tangent because of you, John, and then I'll come back to the video. But I get a lot of flack from people on the left who think that I am more right than I am because I advocate for politicians that I think are electable in America. So I think the Democratic Party structure and the Democratic Party has to be the umbrella that ties everyone together. And this is why I'm particularly put off by Sanders, because things would have been completely different for me and Bernie if after 2016 he stayed a member of the party and tried to reform it from within. But he didn't. He just quit. He just walked away from it. So I think within that structure, you need a party that is broad enough to encapsulate a lot of center left and left views. And I think the party at its core can be more left than the general public, but the party policies that they articulate have to be more centrist and moderate, and not necessarily center right, but Americans generally, I know the younger generation thinks they know what socialism is, and they don't, because Americans generally don't know what socialism is. But older people, they're going to be a little bit more on the conservative side, small c, conservative. So you need a candidate who can kind of hit that sweet spot of having left values, but not talking in a rhetoric that drives those moderate people away, who are going to see them as, okay, well, at least they're not Trump, but they're not, worse than Trump. So I do agree that a strong left platform with an articulate leader can do very well. Barack Obama was incredibly persuasive whenever he got behind a microphone. And he had a sort of, it wasn't even that he was selling you on a particular policy, was it? At least what I remember, maybe it's colored because through the lens of the last days of his presidency, and I don't remember the early ones quite so fresh, but my reaction was always, when Barack Obama was behind the microphone, I felt safer and secure. Like, I felt the government was in a good pair of hands. And he gave us a message of hope and change. And hope and change are not far left ideas. He sold an emotion. He sold comfort. He sold us a positive view of the future. And that got tied in with Obamacare and closing down Gitmo and other things. Sorry, I have to clear my throat because I'm still a little bit coming down with a cold. But he wasn't out there saying destroy capitalism. He wasn't out there, making enemies, just basically like complaining about billionaires all the time. Now, there's some things to be, there are good critiques there. But how you sell yourself to a general population is very different from how you sell yourself to anti-capitalist international activists on Twitter. So I think the Republicans do this all the time. All the time. The Republicans run on stacking the courts with religious judges and overturning women's access to abortion, doctors' right to take the best medical decision for their patient, and guns. Judges, abortion, and guns, where they used to say God, guns, and gay, homophobia. And then they go and they do tax cuts and they do everything else. So I'm repeating myself now, but it's an important point. Okay, so on that, did anyone else have anything to say on that? I've said the magic word in politics, so politicians are salespeople. Yeah, you don't have to, it's a bait and switch. The Republicans do a bait and switch every single election. They run on low taxes, they deficit spend. They run on abortion and guns, and then they focus on deregulation. So it's really about the messaging. Yeah. Aussie libs are acting like maggots. Yeah, and MAGA-ettes. Yeah, I get that. All right, so let's talk about me some more. My runny nose. Okay, so with this video, there's always a danger in running these clips that you're going to end up being demonetized. But I had sort of this idea for a CinemaSins-esque parody. And I don't know how that went over. You guys can have a watch and let me know what you think if you like that format. The nice thing about the CinemaSins structure is that it saves me having to do one more step, which is put in video. So to do a video response on camera would not only require me having a script, but, lighting and makeup and everything else. But the CinemaSins structure about it, that definitely lends itself to an audio overlay. And you can just do that and kind of get away with that being your work. I'm actually going to point my camera a bit more at me. Yeah, there we go. That's my head. All right. Yeah, so with this, with the CinemaSins kind of format, I had the challenge of doing the entire video. And that's boring, I have to say. And that's why I ended up speeding it up in certain places, because it was just getting Carl to make a point succinctly is sort of a losing battle. And then also trying to get, sorry, I'm still mucking about a bit with the camera. That's better. Yeah, and so I had to end up doing double speed a couple times because he's just reading text out, and I don't want to, so I tried to shave an extra 5 or 6 minutes off the total video time. That worked out, I thought, okay. And then the other thing I wanted to do, as opposed to just sort of the pausing effect, which on my app, it's a little bit fiddly, but I think it actually worked out pretty well. So I finally mastered the freeze frame stop effect. This, by the way, is each one is you just cut up the pieces, and I had to cut up the audio and then cut up the text and make sure that they all landed at the same time. But then I learned how to do the freeze frame effect. You have to take a picture on your phone of the screen that you want to freeze frame and then crop it so that it's perfect, you can fit it into the space where the screen was. Then you drop it in and resize it so that hopefully it's an imperceptible change from moving screen to the picture. So that's what I had to do for I had to do, I don't know, 24, because I think there was one non-derp stop that I did. So yeah, 24 screenshots in order to do that. Then I like CinemaSins, the humor, it's simple humor. But yeah, I mean, it's very much a formula. You know when you click on a CinemaSins video what you're going to get. And that's the usefulness of the trope, in my opinion. Because by even just taking their music, or not, taking their sound effects, doom, 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 people start to go, oh, okay, it's CinemaSins, and that's going to be a point, counterpoint sort of structure. But I didn't feel like I honestly, I did not want to do the running count. It's kind of one thing to do stuff on your phone within this, but I would have to, it would have been really complicated to keep a running derp total at the end, or along the video, which is why I just did it all at the end as sort of the stinger and the reward for watching all the way to the end. But because I didn't have the count, I needed some other way of kind of communicating to the audience what things were being said that were entirely ridiculous, or the ridiculous things I was going to respond to, because pretty much everything Carl says is ridiculous. Let's just be honest here. Then after the video, I'd done the audio for and edited it through, and had a rough take, I went through and I added the derp count. I added the derps and then did a derp count at the end. And that was, like 8 hours yesterday. I think I started at 10 and 10-ish with some coffee. Took a couple breaks, and I think it went out like about 7 o'clock at night, released by 8. So I spent all of Saturday working on the video. And I actually really would like to sit down with Carl. I know, Kevin, you're not probably in the chat, but I would really, really, really like to have Kevin use some of his Sargon whispering skills to get him on the happy hour to talk about impeachment. Because this video was, in some ways, really easy to make, because he just doesn't know anything. But then it made it really difficult to make, because he doesn't know anything. And he keeps repeating the same false points again and again and again. So I ended up being a bit repetitive, more than I wanted to. Actually, like, when I watched it, so I did all of my responses, recorded my audio, and then I listened to it, I'm like, oh my god, I'm repeating myself so often, but in a lot of ways I have to repeat myself because he's repeating bad information. So yeah, when you do these, I always try to drop in the original source with fair use, and that usually gets my videos demonetized, because I'm doing fair use, and then you have to appeal and yada yada yada. But I was pretty happy with it. Yeah, it was a little bit rough. Like, the script was extemporaneous, not written out, which probably was why it doesn't sound perfect. And I was getting cold. I still am, I think, getting a cold. But yeah, so HK in the chat, people really started saying impeachment doesn't begin until Pelosi hands over the articles. This is so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. I mean, okay, so let's just look like just to make this house power impeach. If I could spell. All right, this is really kind of, it comes down to, it's really super simple on whether or not the Senate is the body that actually makes the articles of impeachment valid. And the basis of this is right here. Who has the power to impeach? Who does? And the fact is that it says, wait, where's the, now I have to look it up. I have to look up the word soul. Not the sort of invention thing, the imaginary thing. Here we go. Yeah. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker or other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. The sole power, the sole power, the sole power. That's it. Just the House. All the power to impeach rests in the House. Therefore, when the House passes articles of impeachment, he's been impeached. Sole power. The Senate has no power. The Senate has no role. The Senate doesn't ratify. The Senate, acceptance doesn't make it valid. The House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment. That's it. Done. And the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. And as I pointed out with Marco Rubio, not review the evidence, but try. So, yeah, last time my daughter and I went to the cinema. She hit me when I said 45 seconds of logos. That's the other thing about CinemaSins. Because they go after tropes, I discount Donnie Mark, or, Donnie whatever, the guy from whatever. When they do that kind of stuff. Yeah, all of that. They're really, really fun. Off the cuff. I don't know what that means. Off the cuff. Yada, yada, yada. Ding at home. Not all at the cinema. Soul power is super strong. Flatfish. Okay. Unlimited. Not unlimited power. Just soul power. Sorry, everyone. I'm getting the cold. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I'd encourage you guys to watch it. I use other clips in here that help, I'm sure, get my video demonetized. But more than anything, really, I really want to school Carl and Tim Pool I'd actually have to sit down with both of them and explain what they don't understand about impeachment. Because I spend probably 2 to 3 hours every day consuming information on the impeachment trial. And I also, throughout the video, I debunk the Biden stuff. So yeah, it was several hours worth of work. I hope you enjoy it. Let's see. Got to get Trump out of office. Yes. Hopefully. We're coming down to, I don't know when the next swearing of the next president is, but as we're getting down to the 20th of January, around that time, it's starting to get 1 year countdown until we have a new president. And hopefully that new president will be anyone but Trump. Yeah, the term impeachment for the orange man. Yes. All right. So that's, I guess, enough waffling for the first 20 minutes of the show. I want to have this opportunity then to go over some bookmarks because I'm lazy, as I've said before. I'm still kind of gearing up to things, and it's still the holidays. We've had, I guess, almost a war with Iran, so there is that in terms of news coverage, but fortunately that's calmed down a bit. I wanted to highlight this idiotic tweet. This person is a member of Congress. I'm sorry, she's a member of the Senate. The first senator, the woman senator from Tennessee. And she lies twice in this tweet. This is a Republican, I think when Marsha Blackburn was part of the House leadership. She was very much like a token. Here's a woman. Put her out in the front. Hey, wear a skirt. Show everyone you're a lady. But I think Sargon knows more than Christie about American politics. Yeah, that must be it. Okay, so first, a three-year coordinated effort has been underway to remove Donald Trump. The whole investigation started 110 days ago, sometime in July. Not a 3-year effort, but Republicans. It's like they're constitutionally incapable of telling the truth. And then, when she just lies to her constituents. But this is great. Jesus warned us, watch out for the lawyers. What? What? I don't remember anything like that. So let's just Google. Jesus, watch out for the lawyers. Yeah, well, looks like it's already gotten some play in the media. Woe to you as well, experts in the law. Of course, this is Jewish law. That's not lawyers. They're not. There's no mention of Jesus warning people off of lawyers. Again, when people are experts in the law in the Bible, they're usually discussing the oral law versus the written law and the role of both in Judaism in first century Palestine. So he's like, yeah, that's not the lawyers we're talking about. If you look up the word lawyers, you're not going to find it that often. Let's just lawyer. I guess in a modern sense, you might get a bad translation that kind of uses a word that has a different impression. But I'm not seeing any some lawyers again. Lord, you are my lawyer, plead my case. Yes. But Jesus didn't say, watch out for the lawyers. So she got dragged pretty hard on this. and rightfully. Evangelicals who want to tell us that they have the authority of their God to impose abortion restrictions, contraception restrictions, practice bigotry legally in the United States by denying people their civil rights. And they don't even know their own text, and they want to lecture us. So, someone did have the actual quote from Shakespeare, but they basically said, look, mate, that wasn't Jesus, that was Shakespeare who said that about looking out for all the lawyers. So there you go. That's the quality of people being elected from Tennessee. There you go. That's the first woman representative from Tennessee. That's our role model. That's our move the screen. That's feminism for you. The women can be as idiotic and ideologically blinded as men. Woohoo, equality. Gotta love modern evangelicals, Andrew writes, completely disregard the historical context in order to fit whatever message they prefer. I was pretty astounded. So I was raised, I think I've said this before, but I was raised Catholic, and we didn't really do Bible study. We didn't really, you had the readings from the Gospels and whatnot in the course of Mass, and maybe the priest would select a passage or a section of the Bible. But in terms of actual rigorous or actual Bible study, I'd never been too exposed to that whatsoever. So as a transitioning from my Catholicism, or abandoning, I should say, my Catholicism on my way to atheism, I did watch some Bible study videos, but this was after I'd done a whole bunch of research on the Bible. So I'd read books about it, I'd listened to lectures from Bart Ehrman, I'd listened to debates about the historical accuracy of the text, all that kind of stuff. And then when I watched a Bible verse, and they're like, let's pray to God about what we should find in the text today. And let's just open up some passages here and cherry pick them out and see how they apply to my life right now. That's divination. That's not Bible study. That's basically using the Bible like astrology. I'm going to open the Bible to whatever page and put my finger down on a passage and read that out, and that's going to be God's message to me. When you say Bible study, why aren't you actually studying the Bible, its origins and its original language and the translation problems? But yeah, they don't really do that. And that's part of the problem, is that they just think it's a magic book, but they don't really get into the details of it. Super surprise, atheist has read more of the Bible than a Catholic. And as I'm a history buff as well, and so I really enjoy different phases. It's mostly Western European history, because that's what I've been exposed to the most. So I don't have a deep understanding of China or anything to do with that. Sorry, just 1 second. But, Josephus writing at the time, and I'm very much on board with the idea that Jesus was a historical person. I think he was, the more that I've learned and the more that I've kind of investigated what little tidbits of things that we can say sound plausible and which ones don't, also based on archaeology, my take is that Jesus was a real Yeshua of Nazareth, was born in Nazareth, lived the first part of his life pretty unremarkably. At some point, maybe through exposure in Caesarea, I think is the nearest city to him, it sounds like there was archaeology that showed that part was much more cosmopolitan than originally thought, so there was perhaps more exposure to different ideas, being able to do business in Greek and in Hebrew and in Aramaic. Well, not in Hebrew, but understanding Hebrew and speaking Aramaic, and exposure to Greek. Sometime in his late 20s, he had a conversion, or he had some sort of religious experience and decided to follow John the Baptist, and was attracted to his sort of apocalyptic messaging, and followed him, went out to the wilderness with him, which is what John the Baptist was doing, kind of living apart from society and being in the wilderness doing his preaching thing. Got baptized by him, and then deludedly convinced himself that he was the Messiah. And then he went around trying to convince other people that he was the Messiah, and it got him killed. And that's my take on the Jesus story. And I can't say for sure that he was, mentally ill, or just an incredibly zealous believer who had a bit of a, self-delusion error that he made. But he died because he was preaching that he was the Messiah. And the one thing the Gospels all agree on, and they don't agree on much, let me tell you, it's much easier to find areas where the Gospels contradict each other than where they all say the same thing. But the one thing that they all agree on is that the sign above his head was King of the Jews, Jesus, King of the Jews. So clearly the Roman state saw him as a political threat because of his religious. How did we get on this? I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, it's basically Jesus preaching against the first century evangelicals. Yeah, it's about taxes and policies. Yeah, well, the thing is, okay, so we're having this conversation. Let's have this conversation. I don't think we can find the historical Jesus from reading any of the Gospels. I think you can triangulate little bits of reliable information by reading across them. But Mark's Jesus, who is the secret Messiah and who starts his gospel with Jesus's baptism by John the Baptist and getting convinced that he was the Messiah. That's where Mark's thing starts. The mark of Jesus is very much a reflection of Mark's community, much in the same way that Luke, with Luke Acts, is a representative of his more pagan Christian community, and Matthew is a representative of the Jewish Christian community breaking away from, sort of having that initial tension between Judaism and Christianity that eventually will lead to the split. And then by John, which is written in the 90s, we see the split. We see that the Jews have started to put in a little affirmation in their services saying, there's only one God and it's not Jesus. I don't know. They had some kind of Shebboleth test that they were applying because the Jesus movement was, were they Jewish? Well, they stopped being circumcised and they stopped practicing all the purity laws. So so by John, there was, by the time of the 90s, there was a massive break. So Jesus is always being, and of course, all these authors were using earlier works like the Q source or taking things from Mark. So it's a kind of a hodgepodge. But I think, I tend to read it as Luke's Jesus, John's Jesus, Matthew's Jesus, and Luke's Jesus, because to me, he's a mouthpiece as much as he is an actual person. Jesus never referred to himself as the Messiah. He said the Son of Man, which was a generic term, could also just be used to mean humans. But apocalyptic Judaism in that time with the Dead Sea Scroll community, the Essenes, they had the idea of a dual messiahship. One Messiah that would come and clean the temple and restore the temple, and then the other one that would be a secular ruler. So these ideas of messiahship were quite fluid, and they were also, it wasn't a crime against Rome to call yourself the Messiah. It was a crime against Rome to act like you were going to be the king of anything. So it's pretty clear to me that Jesus, at least the Jesus I see in Mark, was a Jewish apocalyptic preacher. He thought that God was going to intervene in history and set someone up to be his human representative on earth. And I do think that Jesus's secret gospel in Mark is him saying, hey guys, it's me. I'm just going to preach about the Messiah and people are going to hear it, but they're not always going to understand it. How to get from impeachment to Jesus. I know you guys. So, Son of Man is not quite a Messiah. He is a man, not a number. Yes, I know. How do we get from Jesus to... because of Marsha Blackburn. That's why. Because of her nonsense. Okay, so moving... I'm going to try to move on from this. So we have a little bit more on, not necessarily impeachment, but politics. Sorry, all right. I'm going to see what 250 had to say here. It is true he gets more and more magical as the Gospels get more removed from the time of the actual guy. Yeah, all right, can I just say something else on the Jesus thing? This is really important. The other thing that is good to keep in mind, especially by the time you get to the Gospel of John, is that when Paul started converting Gentiles over to this sort of Jewish light version, like a light, yeah, exactly, like a free app version of Judaism. You don't have to do the you don't get the circuit, you don't get all the benefits, but you also don't have to pay with circumcision. God was supposed to show up. Paul thought Jesus was going to come back in his lifetime. Paul thought when he was preaching and what he was telling everyone was, hey, anytime now. A guy rose from the dead, last year. This is going to happen anytime now. And by the end of his ministry or his preaching, his own followers were dying off, and there were questions like, what happens to people who die before Jesus comes? Because, if he's coming next week and they died last week, then will they have missed out on the kingdom of heaven? And as the decades wore on, it became increasingly clear that Paul was wrong and that it wasn't going to be imminent. And so the narrative had to shift and accommodate. Okay, it's just a little ways off, and the more time that kind of goes by, the less like immediate, like next week, it starts to be, and more framed around saving your eternal soul for the long run, it tends to be. So yeah, the narrative of the Pauline version of Christianity was certainly one that had to adapt its theology in light of facts. And hence Jesus also, tends to get more magical as he goes along, because he's getting less and less Jewish and he's becoming more and more pagan. Can we talk a little bit about, I know it's an election year and everything, but I'm starting to wonder if Congress isn't going to, I wish they would investigate to decide whether or not Trump has actually violated his constitutional oath again. It seems to me that he launched a preemptive attack, not one based on an imminent threat or on an immediate threat to American lives. And he lied to Congress and the American people afterwards. And this just seems like another instance where we should have impeachment articles and an investigation, because the whole idea of Trump acting precipitously, his immediate response by, from changing his mind and then having an operation happen within a day or a few hours, that is only meant to happen when there is no time, and you don't have time to notify your allies, and you don't have time to notify your embassies in the area, and you don't have time to consult with Congress. And clearly, based on their statements, there was plenty of time, because there was no imminent attack. And Trump is exercising, he can't use the war, he did notify Congress in the terms of the war powers, but his legal basis to be claiming that he did this because of laws that were passed in the early 2000s to deal with Saddam Hussein just smacks of tyranny and executive overreach. And it occurred to me the other day that, at least I can only speak for myself, but growing up in America, you get fairy tales of kings and queens, and you hear about feudalism and serfdom and stuff, but you mostly I think there's another reason to wrap up the show, guys, is because my voice is starting to already get a little bit sultry. Definitely think I'm coming down with a cold. What was I saying? We had, you get here stories of Henry VIII, or you get dramas today, like, the Meghan and, which one is it? The orange, the ginger, Harry, moving to Hollywood, yada, yada, yada. And we, I think, have forgotten the bitterness of tyranny. I think we've forgotten any real connection to the idea of being under a strongman dictatorship, where you are at the whims of someone else who may, doesn't really care what your opinion is and is happy to spend your money and throw soldiers at attacks or use violence in order to advance their personal agenda, not the national interest. And we've seen it. There was a lot of talk about the will there be a constitutional crisis? Every day, it seems like in this last year has been a constitutional crisis with Donald Trump. And it is frustrating to me and scary the extent to which blind partisan loyalty will trump dedication to a set of principles and rules that we all abide by. I don't, if the Senate Republicans vote against the second article on obstruction of Congress, what they will be saying, in effect, is that Trump can just defy all presidents going forward can just refuse to even cooperate in a bare minimum way with congressional investigations based on their preferences and whim, and there's nothing Congress can do about it, and they'll just, I don't understand how you could possibly think that is healthy for a democracy, and yet that is what Republicans are prepared to do. They're prepared to sell out the founding fathers to protect Donald Trump. And if that's the case, and we don't deserve our republic. I'm not saying that Americans as a whole don't deserve it, but we've put people in power. White people put people in power that actually destroyed the very institutions that they were there to protect. And that's going to be 100% on us. And I'm going to say, hey, I didn't vote for Marsha Blackburn, but I am also part of a population that did. So that aggregate responsibility is still some personal accountability. And this is it's a very scary time, I think, constitutionally, because Trump wants to be a king. I am seriously scared at the idea of him having another 4 years to do this. Because if he gets away with defying Congress in their oversight duties in his first term, imagine how lawlessly he's going to behave in his second. He will feel untouchable. He will feel unstoppable. And the Republicans, considering that the party recently voted that Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka were like their preferred candidates after Trump, they're not going to get a break. They're not going to have any distance of, they won't have any way to distance themselves from his lame duck administration. Let's look that up very quickly. GOP after Trump. Oh God, I'm going to sneeze. Yeah, okay. So I can feel a sneeze coming on. What's that? I told you guys I'm getting sick. I did. Okay, so achoo. If you guys want to say gesundheit, you don't have to say bless you. Not now, Guardian. That's why you have ads on, right? Alright. Oh God, this is so scary. 29% of poll respondents want the president's son to be the nominee in future election, while 16% support the first daughter. Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump are among Republican voters' top picks for the GOP presidential nomination. It's like they want to restore the monarchy. It really is like, oh, we've had too much of this, giving other people equality. Let's just have a white supremacist in there who protects white people like the founders used to. 40% of respondents, this is an Axios SurveyMonkey survey, 40% of respondents wanted the Vice President, Mike Pence, to be the Republican nominee. 26% wanted Nikki Haley, former ambassador to the UN. But 29% plumped for Donald Trump Jr., a regular surrogate for his father, despite nominally being separated from the political side of the family by joint control with his brother Eric of the Trump Organization. And Ivanka was supported at 16%. So there you go. I mean, we'll see what happens. We've got to get through 2020. But I would not expect Trump, nor his family, having once tasted political power, to ever be willing to give it up again. So and as long as they want to hold on to it and their base is mindlessly loyal, it's a threat to our constitutional structure. Hold on 1 second. All right, I'm sniffling, I'm coughing, I'm sneezing. Guys, I think I'm going to end this show a little bit early and switch from coffee to an herbal tea and maybe take some decongestants. So, but I'll answer this question from HK because I love HK in the chat. Do you have a simple theory for why the GOP have so willingly become Trump's gimps too? It's a complicated answer. So the Republican, here's my take. The Republican Party 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was made up of kind of two types of activists. There were the people who, like the Tea Party types, the anti-abortion, the people who are the gun types, the people who are seriously politically active, who are from a conservative viewpoint, and they're caring about particular issues. I think it's also important to remember that a lot of the GOP, especially the GOP support that Trump has now, are white evangelical Christians. And there is a higher tendency amongst that population to say they are Christians first and Americans second. I think psychologically they are primed, and it is reinforced to them that power, even power being wielded imperfectly in advancing a perfect cause, is okay. That it's about that the ends justify the means, pretty much. And they have a faith-based worldview. They have an attachment or a preference for hierarchies. And we also know from psychology, conservatives are more likely, I should say, to have an aversion to ambiguity. Do you guys know about this concept? Ambiguity, aversion. Yeah, bias. I'll just do this one. No, not that one. It's not decision theory, it's in psychology I'm thinking about. But maybe I have to do a different search having to do with morality. So they like to have things black and white. They don't feel comfortable when they don't know where things stand. People with who feel less comfortable with ambiguity, they're more likely to go into the police force or into the military, where a decision making is very clear and there's a command structure. Oh, thanks, HK. That was super generous of you, and I appreciate that so much. I'll read your questions anytime, even for free, hon. And we have a history in America of tying together, or of linking, like freedom with moral superiority. Again, there's a sort of like the assumption that capitalism goes with democracy. We know capitalism preceded democracy and worked absolutely fine with monarchy and authoritarian, governments. But there are some weird things that Americans have bound up with their idea of what it means to be an American, and capitalism is one of them. And the idea of America being chosen and people having associating their Christianity with the Constitution is also very common in the GOP. And the other thing is we know that Democrats just generally tend to have more of a commitment to the rules and fair play. And they are more interested in the ends and will justify the means to get to them. So there is a fertile ground there for a lot of inconsistent application of principles. And, well, I mean, sorry, I don't want to keep coughing at you guys. Should we just find that Trump guy? I mean, I think the best way to sum it up, let's go here. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Trump supporter. Oh my gosh, I cannot. I can't. Yes, that's right. I can't really type. I need to clip my nails. Yep. This is amazing. So when you have a bunch of feels and you don't have really well-developed understanding of the Constitution and its background and its principles and legal framework for it and its legal restrictions, like how it reins in the president, how it reins in Congress, and you just end up with somebody like this. So I gotta turn on the desktop audio here. That'll help. Hell, listen to this.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
I'm not really sure. I just support him.
What is something that you believe the president has done well?
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, the other thing you'll see is rationalization in terms of personal gain. So yeah, I don't like Trump when he does that or this, but, you know, he's bailed out the farmers in the trade war. And of course, white people who don't have to live with the effects of racism or discrimination are always quite happy to wave it away as a problem. So, yeah, like fixing, yeah, and I'm not saying that, and this is, I don't want to say, it's not the case, that only Republicans are selfish jerks. There's plenty of people on the left and people on the center who are selfish jerks as well. I just think that the right-wing perspective in terms of liking hierarchies and the lack of moral ambiguity, combined with a faith tradition that is more about ends than means, and you put that in a mix of an America that's on the verge of becoming plurality white instead of majority white, and a white supremacist at the head of the government, and that's a dangerous mix. Capitalism works better without democracy. It's way better for the global capitalist system if China stays a dictatorship because it keeps the market stable. I guess, you know, I'm not an economist, and the capitalism I was thinking of is more related to the monopoly system, kind of like what Adam Smith was railing against in The Wealth of Nations. When you get into power and you show, you develop a close relationship with the king or queen or the strong man in power, and then you get some sort of special benefit, special monopoly. I mean, that's still capitalism. You still have to raise your capital, you know, like the East Indian, was it tea company or whatever. I mean, those places were all using capital and exploiting labor. They were just doing it under the auspices of a royal seal. So yeah, and in some ways, well, you know, we just talk about the capital part of it. Capitalism is completely independent of government per se, because it's very adaptable. What was that? Okay, all right. Here's how I'm going to end the show. I think because of HK, you got me off on a rant. Not on a rant, but you got me off, so I think I'm going to end up going for an hour. Thanks, HK, by the way, helping me across the finish line, the 1 hour finish line. I watched a really cool documentary. Yeah, 6 more minutes. Okay. I watched a great documentary on Netflix. I haven't finished it. I'm hoping to. Maybe after the show, actually. Since I've finished my Sargon video, I can reward myself. Sorry, I don't want to keep coughing at you guys, but my throat tickles. So the really cool, yeah, you can see, like, if you want free Netflix, just get it from a friend like everybody else. Okay, well, there was that. I'm going to turn my sound down now. Well, you guys weren't expecting to hear that this morning. All right, so I'm going to do my little Netflix recommendation. If you don't have Netflix, find a friend who does and ask them for the password. But search. Okay, first of all, Kung Fu Hustle. If you've not seen Kung Fu Hustle is so much fun. It's really awesome, absolutely amazing. It's weird. it's completely okay. I'm gonna say like awesome and amazing might make you think like it's gonna be super happy and you're gonna like feel like I don't know, but I love it. I love Kung Fu Hustle. It's one of my favorite. I might actually watch that after this show. Piracy is good for you. Look, I mean, I'm paying $10 a month, and if I want to sponsor a friend or my dad in this case to occasionally dip in, that's my right as far as I'm concerned. But I'm not seeing the show that I was watching last night. So let me go down to my continue watching. Yeah, this is the one. Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks. This, oh my gosh, there's so much left of it too. It was really good. So if you're looking for something on Netflix to watch, I think people are moving kitchen furniture in and out of our house, or in and out of our building on the weekend, which you're not meant to do on a Sunday because it's quiet day. Shh. In Germany, you're meant to be quiet and respectful of your neighbors. Anyway, Kung Fu Hustle. Yeah, it basically gives the background of the development of Kung Fu in the movies and who are some of the main stars, and also, you know, some of the challenges and the bigotries that they had to overcome. Yeah, so fascinating. If you like to learn about things, not just like enjoy the thing, but learn the story behind it, then this I think you would find really interesting. Because they teach you a little bit, and there's a lot of assumed knowledge in the documentary itself, but by listening to it and watching it, you can kind of pick up on, oh, okay, so in this particular movie, for instance, I can't remember the name of it, I'll have to go back and watch the documentary, but the martial artist kind of like, it was something about tea. They did some sort of scene where they're pouring tea and they're talking about the different animals that you use like to influence or inspire certain types of moves in Kung Fu, and then they do all of their fighting with that particular animal style, and then but the whole time they're like trying to pour tea and serve it. Now if you just think about like the Jackie Chan complicated choreography, and they talk in this documentary about the influence from Chinese opera and ballet in Kung Fu. So it's just so cool. It's just like there's so many like interesting things I didn't know about in the world that I know a little bit more now about because of that documentary. So I wanted to kind of end it on a positive because I've been a little bit low. What movie has the cow doing Kung Fu? I don't know about a cow doing Kung Fu. I know Kung Fu Panda, but I've not seen Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Hustle is the alternate to it's Karate Kid like on mushrooms. Right? Kung Fu Hustle Kung Fu Hustle is slightly surreal. Absolutely a bit surreal. And I mean, maybe within the context of the culture that it's in, it's not that unique. But for me, as a Westerner coming from very little exposure to Kung Fu movies, I was like, why is that happening now? What is going on? It was continual novelty and surprise for me. Jackie Chan might be the greatest action stunt director in film history. I'm not even going to argue that. The man is like, yeah, when we talk about the extent to which it's like ballet, choreography, it's like Kevin's violent, sexy dancing. Jackie Chan doesn't do Kung Fu. He does violent, sexy dancing. But seriously, I mean, if you've seen any of his choreographed fight pieces, his fight scenes, the elaborate, creative, interesting, and funny things that he does with not only physical humor, but just incorporating ordinary things around him into a fight scene. I'm thinking in particular of the fight scene at the bar in Rush Hour, one of his earlier movies, and he uses the cue ball and the stick and the table itself, and just things that you would never normally see in a fight scene per se, really incorporated not just once, like picking up a cue stick and smashing it over somebody's head, but doing something like really interesting with it and comedic. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, watery eyes, runny nose, sniffling and coughing. I'm gonna have some chicken soup this afternoon. Guys, thank you for listening to me babble for the last hour. I kind of woke up this morning and went, I need to do stuff for my show. I thought I would talk a little bit about the video because it takes me a really long time to make it, and too often we don't hear from creators like the process, the actual like what went into making it. So I thought I'd fill some time with that crap. And yeah, I'm on Mike Pompeo and Marsha Blackburn. So we've ticked all the boxes. I will try to do something more interesting. Sorry, violent sexy dancing. I will try to do something a bit more substantive, but if you want to see substance, go watch my Sargon video, because that's where all my brain went in the last couple days of video editing. All of my thought stuff went into the Carl video, so you can check that out. And yeah, basically, I'm going to wrap this up. I will see you guys this time next week. Also, think I'm going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Set up next week's stream now, not 4 hours, or 2 hours beforehand. It was fun listening to you. Thank you, DNF fan. That's why I babble. Yes. And what? You want soup? Oh, soup is good. Yes, and get well with my before my next stream with Kev, hopefully. I'm trying to organize something. The Cognitive Society continues to threaten this really interesting debate format that he's going to put up on his channel. But in order to do that, first he needs to do a test stream with me to do his OBS stuff. So I'm looking to hopefully set that up in the next week or so. Because I'd really like to do some more. I'd like to see intelligent, interesting debates on YouTube, because there's not that now. And right now, if you want to debate, you basically just get two edgelords shouting at each other, interrupting each other, and using a whole bunch of very poorly made points. Alright, I said I was going to end this video. I should probably do that. So yeah, I'm going to set up next week's video right away, and I don't know what I'm going to show title. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but we'll figure something out. So thanks you guys for stopping by. I appreciate your time and attention. And have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever it is, whenever it is you are in the world. So until next time, I've been Sick Christy. You've been awesome and healthy, I hope. And we will see each other again very soon. Bye, y'all.